Something appeared in Wisconsin that shouldn't be there. A bird nearly 5 feet tall, with wingspans spanning almost 3 feet, wider than the length of most cars, was seen wandering through residential neighborhoods, walking close to traffic, and trying to befriend Canada geese that wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. It wasn't a sand crane. It wasn't any species native to North America. It was a marabou stork, an African scavenger bird so large, so strange-looking, that people who saw it thought they were imagining things. And the strangest part? Nobody knows where it came from. Actually, they don't. This is the story of the most unexpected bird sighting in recent United States history, and the mystery that remains unsolved. If you've never seen a marabou stork before, nothing will prepare you for it. Standing 5 feet tall, weighing almost 9 kilograms, its wingspan rivals that of some small aircraft. Its head and neck are completely devoid of skin, a raw, pinkish skin exposed to the outside world, an adaptation that prevents the accumulation of bacteria when the bird plunges its head deep into a carcass. There is also a long, fleshy pink sac hanging from its throat, used for cooling and communication. Scientists still debate exactly what it signals. The bird looks, in almost every aspect, like something that took off from the Cretaceous period and forgot to stop. Its nickname says it all: the gravedigger bird. Seen from behind, the dark cloak of its wings, its hunched posture, its pale, dangling legs, it truly resembles a figure in a funeral robe. The name stuck for a reason. But here's what most people don't know about this bird. It doesn't just survive on death, it thrives on chaos. In sub-Saharan Africa, marabou storks feel perfectly at home circling landfills, following fishing boats, and fearlessly walking through human settlements in search of anything that has been discarded. They are not shy. They are not delicate. They are, in every sense, made for a world that doesn't always follow the rules, which makes what happened in Wisconsin a little less surprising, and somehow even more fascinating.
The first confirmed sighting occurred in October 2023 in Gibson County, Indiana. A huge, unidentifiable bird, clearly not native to the region, was spotted and reported. People were perplexed. Wildlife observers began asking questions. And then, almost as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared. For months, nothing. No sightings, no reports, no trace. In April 2026, in Byron, Illinois, the same bird, or what appeared to be the same bird, reappeared. Still alive, still moving. Almost 2.5 years after that first sighting in Indiana, this animal had not only survived, but was also silently migrating north. In mid-May, the storm hit Wisconsin. And that's when things got interesting. Within days, reports began coming in from Fond du Lac, Appleton, Green Bay, and Sheboygan. People pulled their cars over to the side of the road to take pictures. Videos went viral. A 5-foot-long African scavenger was wandering through neighborhoods in the American Midwest as if it had a specific destination, and no one could explain how it had gotten there or where it had come from. Wildlife observers noticed 2 leg bands on the animal's left leg, the type used to track birds in captivity. That was the first concrete clue. But upon examining them, experts discovered that the bands contained no legible information. No facility code, no registration, nothing to indicate a zoo, a sanctuary, or a private owner. The origin of this bird remains officially unresolved.
A single video captured everything about this bird in an instant. A marabou stork approaches a pair of Canada geese near a waterway in Fond du Lac. Slowly, almost cautiously, a word not normally associated with a bird of this size, it moves toward them, as if seeking company, as if it were alone. The geese glance at this 5-foot-tall African bird approaching and immediately make it clear that the answer is no, absolutely not. "I was sad," said Jessica Saunders, a former wildlife rescuer who filmed the encounter. It seemed like they were saying, "Hey,
Let's be friends. But those geese didn't care at all. It was funny. It was also a little touching, and it revealed something important to wildlife experts. This bird, despite years alone on an unknown continent, was still trying to connect. It was still behaving like a social animal. It was still searching for something familiar in a landscape that offered nothing. But the situation was becoming urgent. Wildlife rescue teams had been tracking the stork for weeks, trying to capture it safely. The bird was fast, alert, and despite its size, remarkably skilled at staying out of reach. Meanwhile, incidents with traffic were piling up. Several reports of the stork walking along roadsides, crossing streets, and venturing into areas where a 3-meter wingspan and heavy rush-hour traffic represent a truly dangerous combination. And beyond the immediate danger, there was a long-term problem that all the experts always return to. Wisconsin winters are nothing like those in Africa. Not even close. A bird adapted to sub-Saharan heat, without a flock, without shelter, and without survival instincts calibrated for ice and snow, wouldn't make it to spring. Everyone who understood the situation knew that if this stork wasn't captured before the cold arrived, the story wouldn't have a happy ending. The clock was ticking.
The question that kept arising, the one that no one could fully answer, was simple. How? How does a bird native to the heat of sub-Saharan Africa survive 2.5 years in the American Midwest, through an autumn in Indiana, through at least one full winter, through spring, summer, another winter, and a second spring, traveling hundreds of kilometers across terrain to which it has never adapted, eating what it could find, sleeping wherever it could? The marabou stork's diet is a big part of the answer. This bird eats practically anything: fish, frogs, rodents, insects, carrion, anything the landscape offers. In Africa, it follows predators to feeding grounds and scavenges up leftovers. In Indiana and Wisconsin, apparently, it has found enough. Rivers, swamps, roadkill, food scraps near populated areas. The Midwest, it seems, is not as different from a chaotic African ecosystem as one might imagine. Opportunities are everywhere. You just have to know how to see them. But the cold is harder to explain. Marabou storks don't have an insulating layer of down suitable for freezing temperatures. They aren't migratory birds in the traditional sense. They don't store food or prepare for winter like native species. And yet, somehow, this one continued. There was another detail that caught the attention of all the experts who approached this bird. Its calmness. A remarkable calmness, almost unsettling for a wild animal in an unfamiliar environment. Remarkably docile by stork standards, said Jay Christie, the exotic animal specialist who ended up rescuing it. This docility strongly pointed to a captive origin, a bird raised near humans, conditioned to their presence, which may have been the hidden advantage no one expected. A truly wild marabou stork, panicked and disoriented in an alien landscape, might not have survived a month. This one survived for years. And yet, the question of its origin remains without a definitive answer. Safari Lake Geneva, the conservation park that eventually took it in, confirmed that the bird did not escape from zoos in Indiana or Louisiana, the two facilities that investigators analyzed in more detail. A private owner? An unlicensed facility? Something completely different? The leg rings on its leg are there, but they don't tell us anything. Regardless of her past, she spent over 2 years writing her own story. And she did it in a place that offered no plan for her survival. On a Thursday night in May 2026, Jay Christie, known locally as Jungle Jay, founder of Safari Lake Geneva and one of Wisconsin's most experienced exotic animal experts, found her in Sheboygan County and mobilized to rescue her. She didn't run away. She surrendered without offering any resistance, Christie said afterward. She adapted immediately to our quarantine facilities and is already a team favorite. After 2.5 years of wandering, near traffic accidents, failed attempts to attract Canada geese, and at least 2 winters in the Midwest that should have been impossible to survive, she simply stopped, as if waiting for someone to finally show up. She is now at Safari Lake Geneva, healthy, safe, and yet, officially, a mystery. No one has claimed her. No institution has come forward. The bracelets on her leg remain illegible. Somewhere between Gibson County, Indiana, and the shores of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, the beginning of her story is lost, and may remain so. But here's what her story really leaves us with. This bird had no map, didn't belong to a flock, had no instincts adapted to this continent, and had no reason, according to any biological logic, to still be alive. Even so, it traveled hundreds of kilometers, fed itself during seasons for which it was never made, and arrived at the shelter with a calmness that made it a favorite of the team in just a few hours. Nature doesn't always follow the rules we create for it. Sometimes it simply continues, far beyond the point where it should have stopped. And somewhere out there, right now, something else is doing exactly that. We just haven't detected it yet.